Hi Internet, welcome to the Gredtroin YouTube channel, and welcome to Greg's 14 Adventures, a weekly vlog where I discuss my journey through Final Fantasy XIV as a first-time player. I beat A Realm Reborn back in 2022, and I'm finally finishing up the rest of the game. These vlogs are documenting my journey. If you like these videos and want to support their continued production, the best way to do that is to like the video, share it on a relevant social media site like Reddit, and leave a comment. Thanks, pal. Happy Friday and happy Halloween, everyone. Happy Halloween to everyone celebrating in the United States and beyond. I did consider doing a special holiday-themed episode for Halloween. Halloween's always been a big holiday for me. In my band, Halloween was always the biggest show of the year for my bands because we were a very theatrical glam rock band, and so our Halloween stage shows were always our biggest stage shows every year. So I thought, maybe I could do like something cute and something fun, maybe do like a creepy pasta or something for a vlog this week, but did not have the time with how crazy this week is. I'm going to be actually out of town at the time this video airs, going out of town for a wedding. These last 2 months have been crazy hectic over here. September, I'm used to that month always being the busiest month of the year for me, but then October was just as busy, so it was just a 1-2 punch of really busy months for me. So I won't be in the live chat for the debut of this episode, but I will definitely be checking the comments once I arrive at my destination. So looking forward to chatting with everyone in the comments later this evening or tomorrow morning, depending on how tired I am. But yeah, this week was a much lighter week of 14 playing. I only got in really like 2 play sessions in, maybe 2 or 3. So yeah, this was a much lighter week in 14 playing, but I still went through some really amazing content that I'm excited to talk about. So the first thing I did was I did a little bit of money laundering to give my Gredtroin alt character some extra money because he spent too much on minions. And so I ended up looking on Reddit and saw a way of trading money between characters, essentially like your main character and your alt. And so what I did was I put a single raisin up on the market board for a absurd price. And then I logged in as Lighto and bought the raisin, paid the taxes on it, but then my alt character Gredtroin was no longer broke. So thankfully, Lighto Moneybag was able to help out Gredtroin. Turns out in-video game Gredtroin is broke like real-life Gredtroin, but maybe I'll be lucky and find a benefactor like Lighto to help cover expenses over here. But speaking of Lighto, I finally got my outfit for Lighto set for the patch quests. So finally figured out glamour prisms and all that good stuff. One of the commenters who's on my Discord, EGP Tekken, was talking about how if I got some Shadowbringers gear, then I would be fine up until Shadowbringers, and I wouldn't have to worry about like getting new gear sets for each expansion. But I do want to get new outfits for each expansion storyline so that it feels like the canonical, this is the outfit Lighto is wearing during this expansion storyline. So I will probably end up doing like a little bit of equipment grinding just to get like a cool outfit that I like the way it looks for whatever storyline part is coming up. But I'm glad that I at least figured out the glamour prisms and all that. But what I ended up doing was I grinded for the Adelshire gear, but then like EGB Tekken suggested, bought some like Shadowbringers gear from the market board and just glamored the Adelshire gear with the dye on top of the Shadowbringers gear. So there's not going to be any issue in terms of like item level requirements. Those will be fine. But I'm just wondering if I'm just going to, every time I get to a new expansion, just buy whatever highest gear I have from the market board and then glamour whatever feels appropriate for the storyline. But still, I'm glad I finally got Lighto's new outfit down. I do really like his hairdo because it reminds me of his hairdo in 11. So it's just nice to, I love the top hat. The top hat looks great, but it's nice to see him, letting the luscious locks flow. I've got a tiny bit of another Eden news. Very tiny bit. Not going to spend 20 minutes on it like some of the other vlogs, but I ended up getting a character named Alma in a free gacha pool because they were giving free pools once a day to celebrate the 8.5-year anniversary of Another Eden. And so they were giving free gacha pools, and I got a character named Alma. And you can upgrade Alma into an alternate outfit that is considered one of the 2 best characters in the game. And I happen to have all the required materials to upgrade Alma to that other outfit, and after pulling her in the gacha pools. So I upgraded Alma to her alt outfit, and that is very exciting because, again, this is one of the 2 most powerful characters in the game. Still some grinding and upgrades I need to do to get her as powerful as I want her to be, but that's really exciting because I already have the other most powerful character, and I'm a completely free player, so it's nice to have the 2 most powerful characters. There's even memes about how good those 2 are compared to everyone else in the game. So yeah, it was nice getting her in the gacha pools, and looking forward to seeing what kind of powerful stuff she can do once I get her leveled up. So unfortunately this week, Summoner Jobin had something come up during our normal playtime, and because of my crazy busy schedule this week, there wasn't an alternative time we could both get together. So the vast majority of my playtime this week was doing the Further Hildibrand Adventures questline as Lighto. I actually got the entire questline done in a single day, which is good because I really only had, like, aside from the messing around with the glamour prisms and doing shady stuff with taxes, I really only had 1 full day of playing 14 available to me this week. And because this Hildibrand questline is a lot shorter than the first one, I was able to knock it out in a single day. I was expecting to do basically like the first chunk of this questline this week, and then go back and finish the rest of it next week, is what I thought would happen based upon my schedule. But because it was so much shorter than the Hildibrand quest in A Realm Reborn, I was able to do the entire questline in a day. Which I have a little bit of mixed feelings on, because on the one hand, the Hildibrand quests in A Realm Reborn were really long, like it was a very lengthy storyline, but on the other hand, it does make the follow-up seem less grand and epic. And so, but I'll get into my thoughts as I go through discussing the Hildibrand questline, Further Hildibrand Adventures, and my thoughts. So it begins with meeting Nashu in Ishgard, and she thinks that Hildibrand landed there after flying off into the distance, which I realize is just going to be a running theme of how these Hildibrand questlines end. He is going to fly off into the distance, and we'll find him somewhere else in the future. And so we hear rumors that someone most gentlemanly is having a meeting inside House Fort Tom. So we wait outside to hopefully run into Hildibrand, but we end up seeing Godbert, who hasn't heard from his son either. But then we end up meeting a member of the Inquisition named Seer, who is hunting a heretic, who is supposedly most gentlemanly, and we hear that the potential heretic is in front of the last vigil. And so we go there and we meet with one of Hildibrand's zombies, a gentle dead man, who explains that he was coming to engage in diplomacy with the undead at the last vigil, but unfortunately they were all killed by Lighto, so there's nobody to talk with. But the gentle dead man explains he has like a spiritual connection to Hildibrand and will help us find him. And so we find Hildibrand, and Godbert wakes him up in a pretty hilarious sequence. The cinematography is always off the chart for the Hildibrand questline, and the dialogue throughout this storyline is really great. Perhaps even sharper than the first Hildibrand questline, like really great dialogue. Sir comments on how he feels he's in an alternate reality where logic doesn't apply, and Lighto just sort of, laughs and smiles like, yep, that's just how things go with Hildibrand. And there are certain people who you meet throughout your life who just seem almost like cartoon characters, and the way that their reality exists and the things they're somehow able to do seems to defy logic and reason. So I do like that the Hildibrand questline, says like this person just attracts this kind of crazy cartoon energy. That's just how it goes. And so we find a mammoth in the snow who looks a lot like Vivi from Final Fantasy IX. The mammoth has no memory, so Hildibrand names him Gigi after an expression that mammoths say. And so we take Gigi to Ishgard to see if he will regain his memories, but Sir wants to have Gigi taken in for investigation to see if there's anything heretical about him. But meanwhile, Hildibrand and Nashu are debating whether or not Gigi is a boy or girl when Edmont comes out and says he looks like a boy, theoretically ending the debate. Meanwhile, Sir doesn't care about the gender of the mammoth and is trying to explain that Gigi can't just wander freely around the capital, so Edmont suggests adopting Gigi as a ward of House Manderville. This really excites Hildibrand, who is just really pumped to become a dad, and adopts his son and promises to raise him to be a proper Manderville man. And so we take Gigi around town to try to regain his memories, and a child ends up observing Gigi and calls him weird looking, and that hurts Gigi's feelings. And, it's around this part where you definitely feel like, oh, there's going to be some parallels to 9 with Vivi's existential crisis and like, what am I? Who am I? And so I think that's around the part in this storyline where I realized this one was going to have maybe more heart than Hildibrand 1. I think Hildibrand 1 pretty much was all about the pure comedy and a little bit more exciting in the espionage. But this one is going to be definitely still focusing on comedy, but focusing more on heart than Hildibrand, A Realm Reborn at least. And so, like I said, we've been taking Gigi around town to try to regain his memories, and while talking with a shop vendor, Hildibrand accidentally breaks a vase, but Gigi repairs it, seemingly with magic. But afterwards, Gigi has an existential crisis and runs away because he doesn't feel like he is truly Hildibrand's son. And so we decide to try to hunt Gigi down. And so we find Gigi face down in the snow while Godbert and his wife Julian, Hildibrand's mother, are having a snowball fight. And we wake up Gigi, and he requests that Godbert make him a real boy. And so Godbert uses his powers of crafting to make Gigi giant and buff in another really hilarious scene. Probably the comedy highlight of this entire quest line. I'm sure this is an iconic scene in 14 for many 14 fans. Without knowing too much about it, I'd imagine one of the iconic Hildibrand scenes. Let me know in the comments if this is indeed an iconic scene or if I just think it's that great. But Gigi then transforms back to normal, and Sir notes that Gigi seems to have the power to revert things to their original form. Gigi then talks about how he doesn't feel like a Manderville man, but Hildibrand then gives a speech about how it's not about how you are on the outside, but who you are on the inside and your actions that define who you are. You're a Manderville man based upon what you do, not based upon what you look like. And it's pretty inspiring. I really liked it. It's both comedic and also heartfelt. Then Hildibrand explains to his parents that he adopted Gigi, and Julian is upset about being a grandma despite being so young, and chases her husband and her son in a pretty funny sequence. She is not ready to be called grandma. No, sir. And before I get into the rest of the further Hildibrand adventures, this is my mid-video call to action. If you're enjoying this video, please consider giving it a like, and if you happen to find this video, you should definitely subscribe to the channel. If you haven't been here before, definitely give me a sub. I do weekly vlogs about Final Fantasy XIV, discussing my journey through the game. Just a very casual conversation, so I'm splitting the difference between a podcast and a video essay. And it's a fun way to share my experiences with the game as a first-timer with the game, but long-time FF fan. It's a fun way to convey my personal experience, make some friends on this journey. So yeah, please, like the video, give me a sub, tell me your thoughts on the stuff that I'm doing this week, and feel free to comment on the older videos if you have something in particular to say about a certain section that I played through. I've also got a Discord channel. The link to join is in the description. Just the rules are basically try to keep it PG-13-ish and don't be a jerk. Otherwise, yeah, come join the Discord. All right, mid-video call to action over. So back in Ishgard, Sir is tasked with investigating knights who claim they are the deceased Heavensward knights and are seducing young women, and wants Hildibrand's help getting to the bottom of this. And so we go to the House for Tom's Gazebo, which has been sort of a running gag in the storyline, because Nashu thinks that gazebos are monsters and need to be wild and beasts that need to be tamed. And so it turns out that Hildibrand, Nashu, and Gigi have been just living at the gazebo for an extended period, just like sleeping outside the gazebo. And we find Hildibrand scolding Gigi because Gigi was going to graffiti a family crest on the gazebo and was being told not to vandalize others' property. But Gigi doesn't want to just sleep at someone else's gazebo. Gigi wants a gazebo to call their own, and isn't sure that he wants to do a lifestyle of wandering like Hildibrand and Nashu. And then Cyr and Julian show up, and Cyr asks Hildibrand for help getting to the bottom of this case, to which he happily obliges. And Hildibrand also teaches Gigi not to call Julian grandma, because he doesn't want to be receiving the wrath of his mother yet again. She is still not too excited about Hildibrand adopting a mammoth, and generally, just says, I'm not ready to be a grandma, and he's not taking this seriously. Julian, at this point, she seems just like skeptical of her son in general, skeptical of his detective misadventures, skeptical of him as a surrogate father for a mammoth. And so at this point, I'm thinking, okay, the storyline is going to be Hildibrand really stepping up, showing that he would be a great dad for Gigi, and proving to his mother that, his detective skills have worth and he has grown up. She has to accept him growing up and stepping into a fatherly role. It's accepting that her son is becoming, a father, as Hildibrand, does his own parenting and accepts Gigi for who Gigi is what I figured the parallel was going to be in the storytelling. So we start asking ladies around town about the Heavensward, and one of them talks about how much he loves Zephyrin, and I'm like, yep, I killed that dude. I got sweet revenge on him for killing one of my friends, so yep, murdered your lover. And Nashu thinks it's pretty interesting that the women in the town seem to love the members of the Heavensward when they're supposed to be supposedly celibate, sort of just exposing the hypocrisy of high society. I thought that was a really nice touch. But then we meet an older woman who provides us with info that the imposters are in Idleshire. And once again, Julian is sort of watching things from afar, and she's seeing firsthand how Hildibrand handles his cases. And I think her resistance to being called grandma is less about her feeling old, which I think is still a factor, but more not wanting to admit her son is growing up, and just the resistance towards that, which I think is pretty subtle writing, but I think it's definitely there and very well done. And so we go to Idleshire and investigate around town and meet with a woman who looks just like the noblewoman we talked to in Ishgard. And then we find what we think is the lair of the imposters, and we meet with a goblin named Slowfix who offers us the house and says we can kick out the imposters for tricking people and being underhanded. And says like, yeah, you can just have their house. They can get evicted. Here, it's yours. And so, while waiting to confront them, Gigi paints a cute painting on the house of him, Nashu, and Hildibrand, and it's very sweet, their family crest. Super adorable, love it. And so, while hanging outside, we see a couple suspicious figures and decide to follow them, think that they are the Grand Sirs we are looking for, and we chase them down and discover that they're a trio of old people who want to regain their youth using Gigi. And so the trio of old-timers end up kidnapping Gigi, and it's pretty hilarious because they capture Gigi like there's like a puff of smoke, and then they're running away with Gigi, but because they're so old, they move really slow, and like, because, it's a comedy, everyone's like, oh no, they're getting away, and Sir's like, well, we can just chase them, they're going very slow, why is nobody chasing them? And just the silly cartoon logic of just like no one going after them when they're only like a few yards away. It's really, really hilarious. The comedy in this storyline is once again really great. And so we find the Grand Sirs and decide to steal the armor off one of them so Hildibrand can disguise himself and sneak into camp. And so Lighto sneaks up on one of the old men and like gives him a massage to relax him and steal his armor when he like sort of falls asleep and isn't looking. And the dialogue is really hilarious because it's about like leaving the old man armless, alone, surrounded by monsters, like, yep, he's definitely gonna die. And so just like, good night, sweet prince, and all that stuff. It's just really, really hilarious. It's just like, yep, you're leaving this man to die. So then after we get the armor, we give it to Hildibrand, and he shows up in camp in disguise and fools the Grand Sirs in another hilarious scene. I'm just saying, this scene is funny. This scene is funny. Yeah, it's funny. It's good stuff. It's landing really well. And then right when it looks like we're about to get Gigi out of there, the Grand Sirs reveal that Gigi's real name is Vivi and was invented by a great sage named Quan. So I had thought that, Gigi looked a lot like Vivi just from his design. I thought, oh, okay, they're just referencing Gigi with his design and a little bit with, the existential crisis. But flat out naming him Vivi and having his grandfather be Quan was just a really cool, unexpected Final Fantasy IX reference, and definitely made the storyline hit a lot more. It felt like it wasn't just like fan servicey, whatever. It's like they gave you sprinklings of it and really earned it when that reveal came. And, Final Fantasy IX being one of my absolute favorites in the series, it's really interesting because, not a lot of the other main lines really have referenced 9. And so to get a big 9 reference in 14 was just really awesome. I really loved it. And so Hildibrand lets Vivi make the choice of whether to stay or go, and Vivi decides he wants to revive his real grandfather and will use his powers to try to bring Quan back to life. But Hildibrand instantly regrets his decision and decides to follow Vivi to try to make sure that he stays on the right path. Because only certain ways of reviving the dead are gentlemanly, apparently. So, back in Ishgard, Sir is doing some research on ancient magics to find clues about Vivi, and finds out that this process of reversing aging isn't reversing aging, but moving things to the form that Vivi thinks things should be, and is draining Vivi's life force by doing such. But because Sir was looking at ancient forbidden scrolls, he was accused of heresy and ends up fleeing Ishgard. Which is definitely hilarious because he's a character that's been on the hunt for heretics and then is accused of being a heretic and has to leave. It's pretty funny. But he accepts his fate and is like, you know what, I'm more interested in the truth and helping people than just accusing people of heresy. So it's nice to see some growth from him. So we hunt down Hildibrand and find out that the Grand Sirs are in Zenith hoping to kill Heresvalgar because they're old warriors and they just want to relive their glory days. And so they're like, yeah, let's kill some dragons and, be young again. Reobtain that youth that we lost. But before we can face them, we need to heal up Hildibrand by rubbing oil on him for an uncomfortably long period of time. And just when you think, oh no, you've rubbed the oil on Hildibrand and we're done, then we get a better version of oil that we can rub on him. Salamanderville oil, like the peak oil, the premium oil for the Mandervilles. And then we rub it on him. It is just, again, really hilarious. The comedy is landing so well. And what's really great about the comedy in the Hildibrand questlines is that there's certain comedy that lands with a Japanese audience that doesn't land as much with a Western audience, and vice versa. And, if you're a fan of anime and such, you learn to develop like an appreciation for that style of comedy, but it's not necessarily intuitive based upon the cultural framework that you've been in most of your life. The comedy of Seinfeld is very different than the comedy of Gintama, and the way things land, and they're both very funny, but you really have to sort of have an understanding of the culture to appreciate some of the comedy. But the Hildibrand questline is really great because it works whether or not you're familiar with, like, it. I'm trying to think of the best way to describe this. It seems like comedy that is equally appealing to a Eastern audience as a Western audience. It's like it's hilarious to both and doesn't lean too much into the specific cultural niches of either the East or West, but rather it's more universal in its comedy, and I think it really lands. And I think that's really a testament to great writing, because certain like writing can really rely upon like certain puns, and those don't land in each language. And so they found a way to just like really make the writing and the comedy itself. And just, the rub and oil in Hildibrand is funny from both a Japanese perspective and an American perspective. Again, I'm really impressed with the writing. So we confront the Grand Sirs, and they attack Hildibrand in a overly epic FMV sequence. As you know, that wouldn't be FMV. That's in-game rendering, but just feels like a classic Final Fantasy VII summon sequence, the way they attack him. And Vivi has pointy eyes, which according to the lore means he's been using too much energy and is close to death. And so Hildibrand stands before Vivi, tattered and beat up, and Vivi tries to change Hildibrand, but for some reason Hildibrand's clothes don't change despite being tattered and beat up, and it's because Vivi finds him perfect the way he is. He just genuinely loves his Manderville man of a dad. But unfortunately, the Grand Sir set up a bomb, and pillars collapse that would kill everybody in the party, but Vivi uses powers to restore the pillars back to their original positions and save us. But in doing so, Vivi's life force is drained. But we're able to overcome the Grand Sirs, tie them up, and we're going to take them back to Isgard for a rest. But the Grand Sirs reflect upon life and how getting older isn't all bad, because sometimes you get braver as you get older. And one of the old men confesses his love to the girl of the group, which was pretty sweet. When Hildibrand regains consciousness, he is told about Vivi, going off to a farm upstate where he can run and be free. And he takes Vivi's loss well, and he's ready to get back to adventuring, but he inadvertently insults his mother by saying that she's finally accepting aging gracefully, and that ends up infuriating his mother, who smacks him with a giant frying pan, and Hildibrand flies off into the distance, ready to land somewhere in Doma probably, since that's where the next expansion is, and probably where we'll meet him next for the whatever the next Hildibrand adventure questline is called. But Sur then reveals that Vivi's life force isn't completely gone, and that he can be revived. And so the conclusion of the questline is Sur deciding to live in Idyllshire as a detective, and gives us the Gigi minion, which lore-wise is smaller so that Gigi can regain his energy, and that we believe going on adventures will help restore Gigi's memories and just be good for him for experiences. And what's really interesting is the other day with Summoner Jobin, I saw the Gigi minion for the first time and pointed out to him and thought it was really cool. I'm like, oh wow, check it out, there's this minion called Gigi and it looks just like Vivi from Final Fantasy IX. And I had no idea what it was referencing. But I thought, all right, well, that's cool. That's a random little minion you can get. Not realizing that this entire questline was, Gigi's story. And once I started doing the questline, I figured, ooh, am I going to get the Gigi minion at the end of this? And I did. So this Hildibrand questline was unexpected in a lot of ways. One, I was not expecting all the Final Fantasy IX stuff. That was a really cool surprise. Two, I was surprised at how short it was. I think the expectations I had for the Hildibrand questlines was they would all be as long as the A Realm Reborn questline. And so it was really shocking how short this was. And then when looking at the wiki, I saw that the rest of the Hildibrand questlines were going to be about this length. So that was very shocking. And I think in some ways it was a disappointment because I love the first Hildibrand questline so much and I'm just left wanting more. But I think they probably got some complaints that like, oh, that questline is too long, you need to trim it down. But also this one didn't have any boss battles, didn't have any dungeons or raids or anything. It was just like pretty much mostly just cutscenes, and there was maybe only like one instanced fight. No, not even an instanced fight. It was just like it was on the world map, just like one fight in the entire quest line. And so this one really wasn't gameplay focused at all. It was basically just like go to a location, cutscene, go to a location, cutscene, dialogue. Like that was pretty much it. And so when you're comparing it to the first Hildibrand questline, which had multiple fights with Gilgamesh and a fight with Ultros, and, you know, even like boss battles with Mandragoras and stuff, there was just a lot more to that one. And because it was longer, you got a lot more time with the characters. And so, like, you got a lot of time with Briar Dean, for example, and really got to know his character. And you just... And so it leaves me more mixed on this one because of the standard that the other Hildibrand questline set, and then this one doing something completely different in terms of like length and mechanics. And I looked at some of the other ones, and it looks like there will be like actual boss battles and stuff, like actual instance dungeons in the further Hildibrand questlines, but not here. And so it's interesting that they were still, it feels like they're still trying to figure out like what exactly do 14 updates look like? You know, how much should we go into each quest line? What is the expectation we are setting for the audience? You know, did we overdo it the first time, and then are we under-delivering this time? And I think that the next one, the Stormblood one with the dungeon, I think is probably going to... I feel like that one's going to feel better paced. This one felt very abbreviated in terms of storyline. I mean, I probably could have enjoyed it being twice as long, but that said, like, I mean, I think it was still really great. I really enjoyed it. But let's say I'm ranking Hildibrand questlines, I would put this at number 2, above the 1.0 storyline, but below the A Realm Reborn Hildibrand questline. Which is not something I thought. I expected the Hildibrand quest to get better and better, but I'm wondering if they'll peak at A Realm Reborn and the rest will be still very good and highlights of the game. Like, this was still a highlight of the game in a lot of ways, but I wonder if the Hildibrand A Realm Reborn is going to be the peak of that storyline, or the peak of Hildibrand in 14. I really wonder. I'm very curious about that. But I definitely want to know your thoughts on this questline in the comments below. Did you like the A Realm Reborn Hildibrand questline better, or did you like the Heavensward Hildibrand questline better? Because I think the Heavensward questline definitely has more heart and emotion, but the A Realm Reborn one has more set pieces, more callbacks to other games, and more interesting mechanics. And it's so much bigger that you have a lot more time to savor it. So I'm leaning on A Realm Reborn, but I'm curious, does anyone prefer the Heavensward one in the comments? So once again, thanks for watching. I will respond to the comments as soon as I am able. But I appreciate you guys watching every week, and I'm looking forward to chatting with you guys in the comments. Please like, subscribe to the channel, and yeah, I'll see you guys both in the comments and in the next video. Bye, everyone.